So have you been sitting on the sideline trying to time that move to Southwest Florida, specifically here in Wellen Park?
And you watch those summer prices and they think that they bottomed out and you're wondering, maybe I'm too late to get into the game?
Well, today we're going to discuss that Wellen Park paradox. We're going to analyze that 2025-2026 pivot in Southwest Florida and discuss why Wellen Park is becoming a premier micro market.
And if you're considering buying in the next few months, then this video is just for you.
So before we go forward and discuss the present and future real estate market, it's important, just like any real estate analysis, to look back. We're going to go back to that 2023-24 real estate market where we hit the zenith of speculative homes. Now, speculative homes are those spec homes that builders build with the anticipation of people who need immediacy. Now, they were basing these spec home build outs based on the previous year's historical data of the mass migrations, but we hit that zenith at a certain point and there were certain factors that truly affected that inventory market.
Yeah, I'll tell you, at the end of 2024 and just into the beginning of 2025, with interest rates, they were on the rise, shooting through the roof, and we had a crazy political, tumultuous environment going on with the change with the presidential election. The consumer confidence, to be honest, was at a complete all-time low. You know, so the builders were sitting on a bunch of inventory, all of those spec homes, they had built them and they were hoping to sell them. But when things slowed down a bit, they had to offer huge discounts and incentives. And that's what we saw through 2025. You know, we sold incredible homes at great discounts, $100,000 under their original asking price. So people were getting great deals in 2025, but that started to change again.
And that was an interesting time. Like Caleb said, we saw $100,000 reductions across the board from whether it was a $400,000 Rambler or a $2 million build. Those reductions, if it was a spec home, those builders were trying to clear their books to move on to those next builds. And in particular, in this area, a lot of these builders have their hand in multiple projects. They can't move on to that next project until they satisfy the books. But what we also saw when those spec homes started to dissipate and there was less options for immediacy, we also noticed a change in our buyers' behavior. Now, if anything taught them the last 2 years, it was patience. And anything taught them too is the value of their dollar. With inflation, with everyone truly fighting extra for that money, money's way more expensive now. We saw people leaning more into semi-custom and custom options. They figured if we're gonna build, if we're gonna wait, and we waited this long, we might as well make it our own. And that's where we bring it to this current market. There's some interesting changes, especially with that rise of semi-custom and custom homes. So as the market shifted into semi-custom and custom builds, we certainly saw that behavior of that buyer completely change, and we saw those builders' models completely change as well. They no longer were offering all those aggressive, high-volume speculative homes, and they were leaning into more higher margin semi-custom and custom builds, which meant that it was healthier for that builder, and it was certainly healthier for that buyer because they were able to completely retrofit their life into their build. And now, reason why we were uniquely positioned is because we have plenty of builders and neighborhoods coming online that cater specifically to that semi-custom and custom build. We're thinking about Oak Bend, which has Toll Brothers and ICI, both offering semi-custom builds. And of course, Palmyra and Everly, where you have semi-custom and custom builders. We've had quite a few things going on over there with that.
Absolutely. And at the beginning of the year, a lot of our buyers, they were buying up those spec homes because there was still inventory. But as the year went on, those spec homes, they dried up. And kind of the people's minds kind of changed and they started to look into the semi-custom and those custom builders. People decided, you know, they've waited this long, why not just go for it and get that home that they pick out all those design options, or they go custom and they can really blow it out and build incredible options. So we saw people kind of shift their mindset, go to that custom model and really build some beautiful homes. In Palmyra, we've had a couple beautiful homes that people are building that they've designed from bottom up, and they're going to end up being incredible homes once they're finished.
We know in Palmyra is actually a perfect micro market to test it here because it's 1,200 homes and has 6 different builders. It's got one custom builder in ICI. It's got semi-customs in David Weekley and Homes by Town in MI. But most of those builders that we're used to building track spec homes, and what we're seeing, custom homes are outpacing in sales to that semi-custom and track home, which is a big market indicator and is the reason why people are having the confidence. See, when you build, You are paying a higher price, apples for apples, compared to that spec home, but what you're getting is the lot you want, the orientation you want. You get to choose where your sun rises and sun sets, all of your finishes.
Super important.
Caleb's really big on that. You know, he'll tell you don't ever face west. I'll tell you to each their own. but that's the reality. Is here in Wellen Park, the reason why people have confidence to spend the extra money for that semi-custom and custom home and have the confidence that they're making a sound long-term value is the main reason, the thing that we're going to go into next, and that's what?
That's the Wellen Park effect. You might be wondering, is it a good time to be building a custom home or a semi-custom home? And that's that Wellen Park effect that will give you the assurance that this is the perfect time to invest your money in that custom home.
So let's talk about that Wellen Park effect and why this micro market is so much different than anything else in this region. Now, if you're looking from the outside in and you're looking at that macro market, and you're probably looking at the Venice and Northport markets, which Wellen Park respectively sits in, and you're seeing a massive contradiction. If you're looking at the surrounding area, you're going to see home prices still declining. We think that we still have another 2 to 5% in declines for that Q1 2026. But it's really across the board depending on your neighborhood. But what the Wellen Park truly is, that whole effect, is about having a cohesive, intentional master plan community. You see, what people once wanted in this region versus what they demand now is significantly different. You see, this area was predominantly retirees at one point, but with the inception of Wellen Park, with the inception of that cohesive master plan, that new school coming in, and all of these commercial amenities, and the interconnectivity of these incredible neighborhoods, it has truly reformed itself into a multi-generational destination. So when you start to look at the ancillary value, that insulated value of what Wellen Park has compared to non-branded, non-gated amenities, zero amenity neighborhoods, you can't compare. Those apples to apples comparison regionally no longer are applicable. Now it's all about that destination, about that continuity, about everything within a stone's throw away. And what we're seeing is not only it's bringing people from all over the world, all over the country to this master plan, it's causing people to move laterally. They're looking at their unbranded, undesirable neighborhoods, and they're probably sitting on some equity, but that home is aging, that amenity is not the comparable that you see today's market, and there's so much going on. The other thing that's insulating this value is the newness, the fact that we have new neighborhoods coming online. Today, present day, we have several neighborhoods breaking ground, but over the next 2 years, there's massive neighborhoods, massive stake being claimed here in Wellen Park, which is a major contributor to that insulation. Now, if you compare the outside market, that resale market, it's about 8 to 10% down year over year. Contradictory to that, Wellen Park year over year sales were up 10%. At this point last year, this point in October, we've already sold 756 homes within this master plan. Now that's significant. That doesn't tell you the whole regional story, but that tells you internally we're seeing significant growth. But what that's done for that resale market, it's created a war on two fronts. You see, if you're in that resale market and you purchased in this region between 2023, 2024, what you're doing is you're competing against those builders, those very aggressive incentives. So your home has probably been sitting on the market for some time. So there's good news for you. It's good news for everyone, whether it's new construction or resale. The fact that the strategy of declining all of those spec homes, of clearing those books, and seeing the psychology of the buyer, especially the buyer who was ready to pounce and take advantage of those incentives, we're seeing that they're ready to build those semi-custom and custom homes, make those long-term commitments. So that strategy of the builders dissipating all their inventory to hit that reset button, what it's done is going to bring that value. It's going to hold it much more stabilized. And what that means for the resale market, you're no longer going to be competing a war on two fronts. You see, a resale, it was simply that The value it offered was a better price, a better entry point, which regionally was not the case. There was a very marginal difference between new construction and resale. And when you look at the incentives, it's a no-brainer. You're always going to go new construction with all of those assurances. But there's two other major contributors that are going on right now that are leading towards this insulation, which we're going to go meet up with Caleb, and we're going to discuss what those are and why that's important for the future viability of Wellen Park and its region in itself.
So there are three other contributing factors to that Wellen Park effect. Number one is interest rates. Of course, we've noticed over the last few months, interest rates are slowly coming down. And that's making a lot of people think again. They had great rates historically the last few years, so they were locked in with those low rates and very unlikely to move while interest rates are up. Since they've been coming down, we're seeing that people are unlocking, they're getting off the sidelines and they're coming down here. The second contributing factor is we didn't have hurricanes this year. So psychologically, that makes people ready to move and weather patterns are returning kind of back to normal, where the hurricanes were going west of us or they curl back out into the Atlantic. So psychologically, people are far more likely to buy. And that also lends to insurance. Insurance is down here because we didn't have a weather event this year. And here's a little fun fact. Citizens Insurance, they had 1.4 million people covered in 2024. This year, 569,000 people are covered in Florida. Why is that? That's because 15 new insurers have come to Florida. So you have options when it comes to getting insurance in Florida, and it's affordable and reasonable, and there's plenty of places you can get it. Now, what's that third factor? We call that unstuck buyer. There were so many people who were stuck up north that couldn't sell their houses. With interest rates coming down and the market improving nationwide, slowly but surely with those interest rates coming down, they're able to sell their home. We've already had a few that have done it this year and been able to make that move, and we think that 2026 is going to really lend to that as well. Let's go meet up with Lanier. We're going to wrap this video up and we're going to talk about some really interesting little facts that we have that's going to make you realize why Wellen Park is the perfect place for you to move.
So now let's talk about your future investment, that future proofing of Wellen Park. You see, this isn't just a blip on the radar. This is becoming a year-round destination. You want proof? Because it's not just my opinion. We are the 6th fastest selling master plan community in all the country, and there's two major anchors contributing to that.
Yeah, one of the biggest factors is that brand new Wellen Park High School that is set to open in 2026, and then in 2030 they're going to have that K-8 school opening up, and that's just going to bring families for years and years to come.
Now, what does that mean from a real estate cycle? Anytime you bring in a new academic campus, you're embedding an 18-year cycle of real estate, meaning that family is going to come in from day one and they're going to mature through this master plan community, and the diversity of this master plan community, all those different price points, ensures that they're not leaving Wellen Park.
And the second factor that's going to contribute to it is this great downtown area and the lifestyle anchor that it really is.
That's right, they're bringing all kinds of amenities. The cohesiveness, the interconnectivity of all of Wellen Park leads to this major phase 2 downtown hub. We have Agave Bandito and all kinds of specialty stores and restaurants. Marriott's bringing in a beautiful boutique hotel with rooftop restaurants and all kinds of lifestyle activities. And this is going to embed that long-term viability. Not only that, there's a major corporation bringing their headquarters here.
Absolutely, one of the country's biggest home builders. They're a Canadian company, but one of our biggest home builders, that's Mattamy Homes. They're moving their whole corporate headquarters right here to Wellen Park. So that's a sign that this is going to be the beginning of many corporate relocations to this area, and it's just going to keep growing and growing and getting bigger and bigger.
Now, a quick recap. We've seen those floor prices, they're rising, those lows are getting higher, those highs are getting higher. Consumer confidence is certainly coming back. Our insurance market, it's healed, not only psychologically, but fundamentally and financially. We have more people coming in here. Homes, new construction, particularly in Wellen Park, are so viable, so insurable that you'd be surprised when you see it with your own eyes. And of course, those retirees and those families, they're in an influx. They're both competing for the same inventory, which makes it desirable and makes it competitive. And for your investment, it certainly makes it a viable one.
I can say that Wellen Park has a bright future for sure, and we're looking forward to being a part of that. Hey, just remember that Lanier and I, we are not YouTubers, we are realtors, and we represent people just like you buying a home here in beautiful Florida.
You see, we're Wellen Park Diamond certified, means we're expert. We're recognized by Wellen Park as the go-to guys when you need a home, when you need all the insight of what it takes to relocate, to purchase, and to make sure that your family is secure, and more importantly, your investment is sound. We're those guys. All you have to do is find our information in the description below, reach out, and we'll take care of the rest.
Make sure you give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us that email, or set up a Zoom call so that you can sit down with one of us or both of us and we can discuss your plan to move to beautiful Southwest Florida.
So from the 6th fastest selling master plan to what we think is going to be the #1 master plan community in all the country. Remember, something we did not mention aside from that lifestyle aspect embedded, we're only 15-20 minutes away from the most incredible beaches, and that's icing on top of the cake.
All right, so for this week in Venice, Florida, I'm Caleb.
And I'm Lanier.
And we'll talk to you next week.